season 3, episode 5 already.
That's right.
Pretty
Only 3
exciting
more
stuff.
episodes to go.
Yeah. Yep, going fast.
Mhm.
Um, well, any quick news before we get going, or how update on your week maybe? News of your week?
Well, really, we should be asking how your week went since it was your birthday yesterday.
Oh. Yeah, my week was good.
What did you do for your birthday?
Um, so really did more stuff on the weekend, leading up to it. And it's we went and walked around the park. It was the
Okay.
park we got our like engagement pictures taken in,
Oh, yeah, okay.
and it was really nice how it was a perfect day before it got the big winter wonderland again.
I was gonna say you meant Saturday, right? Because Sunday was
Yeah,
not great.
yeah. So that was good. And let's see, we actually ordered pizza from a place in Chicago, so we had good pizza
Cool.
and had good wine and drinks at night, and then watched anime music videos and
Mhm.
some older music videos too. Kind of went through the list of just had fun there. And then our parents were over on Sunday, so
Nice.
they
Okay.
live close, so it's not they didn't have to trek through the bad weather very far or anything like that. It
Sure. Did you make, like, a nice Easter dinner kinda thing?
was brunch actually.
Oh, okay.
Actually made a
Alright.
good like ham, egg, cheese bake, and then we had bloodies and mimosas and stuff. So
Nice.
yeah.
Sounds like a chill but good weekend.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's about what you can do right now or over this time. I know she's like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I can't do more, whatever, but no, it was good. So
Well, yeah, no, tell her I totally understand because Chris's birthday was also this weekend, and I was like, "What can I do at home?"
hmm
Like, it's tough. Like, you gotta
yep.
get creative, and you do what you can, and, you'll celebrate, some other time
Yep.
at some other place,
Did you
so.
get Manny's steakhouse grub hubbed to your house?
No.
No.
No, so I made him brunch also on Sunday. We had French toast and sausage and mimosas.
Nice. Yeah.
Um, and
We're
then
millennials. That's
yep,
what we
yep.
do.
Brunching it up.
Yeah.
Um, and then Chris, so we both loved like the Ninja Turtles cartoons as kids, and
Totally. Yeah.
obviously they're the best. Um, but I had never seen those like 90s movies of the live action. Yeah, I know. I
Uh,
know. That was his face when he found out. So he made me watch those, like the first
all
2. I haven't
three. The
no,
first two. Okay.
I haven't seen the 3rd yet. But we watched the first one on Friday night, and then we watched The Secret of the Ooze, the second one on
Okay.
Sunday, which I really liked overall. It was good.
Okay.
I didn't like their replacement, April O'Neil. She was too, like, older and sophisticated, and I don't know,
hmm
like, I don't April's just spunky to me. She's like a spunky, young 20-something, and this lady looked like maybe polished early 30s, and I was just like, a little disconnect there."
Okay.
Um, but overall, I thought the movie was fun.
I
So,
mean, really, when you think about it, m- that first Ninja Turtles movie should have started the comic book movie revolution almost. I
mhm.
mean,
Right.
like that's a good movie, I think.
It is, yeah.
It's like very 80s
Mhm.
styles, but it's gritty. It has the right amount of humor, and like
Right.
those suits are great. I mean, obviously the mouths don't move perfect, whatever,
Right.
but it's just really well done. And I would have thought they could adapt the Ninja Turtles into a movie that's that serious and effective.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the second one somehow almost felt more 80s for a time than the
It
first
was
one even.
sillier.
Yeah, but then, like, Vanilla Ice comes in, and I was like, "Oh, boy." Although
Yeah.
I, like, secretly loved it, but it was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
man, this is a little much right now."
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, the quality of the movies is pretty outstanding for the time that they're made in, for
Yeah.
sure.
Mhm.
Um I did so here's the true travesty of this whole tale. I saw the Michael Bay Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before I'd
Oh,
seen these.
okay.
Um, and those are truly they're so awful. Megan Fox is obviously the worst April O'Neil you could pick. Like, she looks nothing like that character, and obviously, we won't even go into her acting skills. But I do wish that that sort of technology had been developed for, like, these early movies. Like, I
Mm,
love the costumes, but I feel like some sort of blend of the CGI and the costumes could have been really cool
sure.
with a quality storyline.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, they just I mean, I didn't watch the newer ones. It I was af I mean, the new
don't bother.
cartoon looks
Don't bother.
dumb. Those newer movies look dumb. I don't
Yeah.
know. Here I go being purist again or something. I don't know. But it's they try to go too over the top nowadays.
Yes. Yes,
It seems
absolutely.
like, you know, you can have Ninja Turtles, the original movie was effective with just some practical martial arts,
Right.
and it was good. It doesn't have to be like some of the scenes I saw from the newer one. I don't know, they're like sliding on their shells down between cars or doing something
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, it's Michael Bay. He's gonna be
Okay. You
over the
want me
top.
to I'm gonna stand up for Michael Bay right now. I'm gonna stand up for Michael Bay right now. He's made a lot of subpar films and you look at him as a whole. But what he does really well is he does orchestrate these like large scale action scenes very well, I think.
He
Um
does.
he needs to uh I don't know, he needs different writers or something. He's not writing this stuff, you know?
Mhm.
As far as I know, he directs and then sometimes some films he produces. So he needs a different to work for different people, but I don't know, it's
Mhm.
a certain kind of film that they hire him for.
Yeah.
And The Rock with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage and Ed Harris, if I recall, is a great movie.
Yes.
And I loved The Island,
Oh, I love The
actually
Island
too.
too. No, I will give Michael Bay that one for sure. Um, I've only seen pieces of The Rock. I should finish that really. But I feel like recently Michael Bay is the quality of Michael Bay films can just be boiled down to like a bunch of action scenes strung together.
Yeah,
And I think he can produce a good action scene, like you said, but his problem is the movies have too many. They're too
yeah,
many action sequences, and that's all the movie seems to be, just like strung together with no tying plot overall or no attempt at a
yeah.
quality plot. So,
I think what it in just a guess. What I think it is you have um a director that has been hired to make a certain kind of movie,
mhm,
and those certain kinds of movies make tons of money at the box office,
right.
and they keep asking him back, and he keeps, I'll do the same thing. They're going to give me
Yeah,
millions of dollars. I'm going to do that thing. And
right,
so until he decides that, you know, I really want to make in its entirety a quality film. Like
right.
I want to do that, and I'm gonna look for the project that demands more of me, uh, other than just like coordinating military vehicles and
Yeah,
then like moving the camera in an effective way. Um, it's and I just I don't know if that's gonna hit him. Maybe he'll get older and be like, all right, I want to try something different.
right. I hope so because like you said, it's not like he hasn't made quality movies. It's
Mhm,
just been a while.
mhm.
So,
Maybe he should try the whole thing,
yeah.
storyboard, get an idea, and write a script and all himself.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, who wrote The Island or The Rock.
Yeah. And maybe he has written something. I don't know. It just
Yeah,
that speaks worse to him than if he has. So giving him the benefit of the doubt.
yeah. But, unfortunately, talking turtles, he did not, produce quality films for the
Yeah.
newer ones.
It, he did, like you say, produced, right? He didn't direct, I think.
The Turtles ones? I thought he
Yeah.
directed as well. I should look that
Hmm.
up. But yeah, they're unfortunately not quality film, even though I think the turtles, they look pretty good.
Okay.
They're a little much in the first one, and then they sort of figure out, I think, the CGI in the second one.
Mm.
But that
Well,
doesn't mean the story's good.
yep. They keep trying to go further in distinguishing the turtles. Do you like
Mhm.
that trend or not?
What do you mean?
Well,
Like
like, so in
personality-wise?
Michael Bay's, no, they like they'll be different heights,
Yeah.
and the new cartoon, like Raph looks very different from Donnie. Like they're just the physicality of them and
Yeah, I
everything.
don't. I sort of love, like, the old cartoons where everybody looks the same. It's literally just, like,
The
you know
bandana color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like half the fun was, like, when you watched it the first couple times was being like, "Crap, which one of them is which one?"
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
everything was just the same, and you'd have to just, like, memorize the colors. And even
Yep.
now, I still, like, double check myself when I like, I'd be like, "Oh, crap, like, which one is which one again?"
Hmm.
Like, Raphael's obviously always, I think, the easiest to identify, but
Okay.
sometimes I'll, like, mix up the rest of them, like Donatello
They
and Michelangelo.
they it was interesting. I have a Ninja Turtles shirt. I think I threw it away now. It's got old or whatever. But
Mhm.
Wes's kid, Josh, we were over his place before, and he just points to my shirt and like says that that's wrong. And I look at it, and kid you not, the Ninja Turtles colors were swapped.
Oh,
Like,
you mean, like, for weapons and
yeah. So
colors?
so it was like Michelangelo in using, so orange mask,
R
but with the size of Raph.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it was,
no.
like, just wrong. I'm like, "I should have kept that shirt as a collectible."
Yeah,
So,
yeah. See what comes off of, like, a mistake kinda thing.
mhm.
Yeah, that's
Alan
crazy. That's a smart
Alan
kid.
I know. It's like, how did I not notice this? This is ridiculous.
Mhm.
I lose fan points. Alan was saying they were all red in the comics. The
Ooh,
That would be tougher to discern.
yeah. Then you'd literally just have to follow the weapons.
Mhm. Some of the comics are they're cool. They're pretty got that good dark pulpy kinda thing.
Sure.
So,
Far from the, 80s/90s movies, which are very campy.
yeah, but they have a kind of they have a kind of a tone, like a visual tone. Like first one, the visual tone is pretty dark,
Yeah. Mhm.
and I definitely far from like the Nickelodeon cartoon, that for sure.
Mhm.
But I like that a lot too.
Yeah, I have to say I'm glad Chris introduced me to these movies. They are fantastic. The only criticism I had, and it was really more like just me as a fan,
Hmm.
I was really sad that Bebop and Rocksteady were not in Secret of the Ooze. I was so ready for it, you
Well,
know?
um, isn't that what they consider? They don't look anything like. Aren't they the two creatures at the
Yeah,
end?
no, so that's Toka and Razor, which I
Oh,
yeah.
that's right. Hmm.
Right, right, but I was ready for Bebop and Rocksteady, so I was
Yep.
a little just like when they came out, I was like,
Hmm.
"What is this?"
Yeah.
So
It'd be interesting what you think of the third one. It's
okay.
generally considered the least good,
Oh.
and I wonder, like, if it appears to people nowadays to be racist. I don't know. It's
Oh,
I don't know.
interesting.
I don't know. I saw as a child in the theater,
Okay.
and it just is going to play on a lot of stereotypes. I think.
Oh, okay,
I think
alright.
that they're in Japan, but
Oh,
not
right,
modern
Chris
day Japan.
right, Chris did say that there was, like, time travel
Yeah.
involved. Yeah.
Hmm.
They go back to, like,
So.
samurai era Japan.
Mhm. I
Yeah.
I definitely would watch those again.
Yeah, they're fun. They're,
Mhm.
and I mean, they were very fun after, like 2 or 3 mimosas, so.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm. Sure it is. Well, what else you got in news here? You added something,
Yeah, I just had one quick thing for us, because I saw it today. So Sony just put out their Play at Home initiative. Much as everybody else is doing, like
mhm,
with coronavirus, they're giving free access to stuff. So Sony decided to do something. along those lines. And starting tomorrow, I believe at 8 p.m. Pacific, I have no idea what that is in other time because I'm terrible at converting
10,
time.
10 here.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Mhm.
Math is not my strong suit. Um, so yeah, so they're gonna have 4 games available for download for free, that have all been digitally remastered for the PS4. So they're gonna have Journey, and then they're gonna have all 3 Uncharteds available for free.
Okay, so the Uncharted trilogy, yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
So I heard, I think that I thought it was this month. Uncharted 4 is available if you're a PlayStation Plus member.
Oh,
I
okay.
think that's for the month of April.
Sure.
Um, and this is good. I know if you've been a PlayStation Plus member for a while, you will probably already have these games.
Right.
Um, but Journey is a good non-gamers game. Some people it's divisive. Some people really critics really liked it and stuff. I enjoyed it. Um, but it's like a peaceful, not do a whole lot game, but it's fun.
Yeah, I mean, I read some of the message that went along with it, and they were in the promo, they were kind of like, "Oh, it's like a life affirming kind of game." It's supposed to be this like beautiful, peaceful, like,
Hmm.
"Hey, we're all gonna make it" kind of thing. And then they were saying how they were releasing Uncharted because it's like, "Oh, like we know you can't move around and travel during these times, but
Okay.
you can maybe do it, virtually." So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they were trying to do something there,
Sure.
whether it works or not, or if it's just sort of like rubbing salt in the wound. Who knows?
Well, Alan says Journey's walking simulator.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's a beautiful game. Kind of glide along the sands a lot and float around, and the music is very good. I
Mhm.
actually listened to a podcast so the composer of that is on.
Oh, okay.
And it's so yeah, good music.
Sure.
And it's kind of one of those cool things. So you get towards, I guess I won't spoil anything with it, but it isn't technically an online multiplayer game. So if there's more people playing this now, it might be a good time to play it because if you play through it and you can encounter others, but you
Oh,
can't really interact. Like, and so it's
okay.
kind of a, um, I don't want to spoil anything. It's a short game. You have a PlayStation, you should just download for free and play it. It's
Sure.
only like a couple hours.
Sure.
Um, and it's got kind of a cool feeling to it if you play it and you happen to run into someone else and knowing that they're real. Because if you just went into it and you think, oh, here's another person like me,
Mhm.
um, if you don't know that's a real person, then it's less effective.
Okay.
Um, the emotion that they're trying to give you. So
Okay. Well, people should have plenty of time to download it because it is free to download through May 5th.
okay,
So got a good like 3 weeks.
so before Star Wars Day
Yes.
or till Star Wars Day.
Yes.
And Uncharted, I mean, if you're a PlayStation owner and you haven't played the Uncharted games, I don't know what's wrong with you. I'm not sure we can
I
help.
was gonna say I know you're a big fan,
Yeah,
so
you should probably just turn off this podcast now if you're
John will fight you.
yeah. Well, it's a I mean, there's a pretty influential games there
Right.
and really, shot Naughty Dog to international fame.
Right.
And now like I mean, the game is based on like Indiana Jones tropes,
Mhm.
so you can thank Indiana Jones for Uncharted. But I think a lot of modern things now have taken more from their direct influences Uncharted more than it is Indiana Jones.
Sure.
So, but
Well, yeah, just wanted to plug that a little bit because, we're all looking
sure.
for things to do while we stay at home. So
Yep.
here are 4 games to play for
Sweet.
free.
Lots of hours spent there. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, a big topic of the episode,
Right.
Westworld. We can't say Westworld Wednesday, but I
No, we
guess if you're
can't.
watching this on YouTube tomorrow or something, then that'll work out for you.
Right.
Um, but episode 5.
Yeah. I right off the bat, I was really interested when I saw the title genre because I had no context for
Yeah,
what that was going to be.
right.
And I never would have guessed that it was a drug that somebody was going to take.
Mhm.
And we were going to move movie like through this episode, but also through this like drug experience.
Yes.
So, what did you think of that?
So I guess it brought up my biggest issue with the episode and that
Okay.
it felt disjointed.
Yeah, sure.
I think, and this was to Ashley's point, I suppose that's part of the purpose,
Mhm.
you know, is to make it feel disjointed. But
Like it's the experience that Caleb's having.
yeah,
Spoiler
yeah,
alert, Caleb is the one who takes it
yeah.
involuntarily.
So for anyone that hasn't watched it, I mean, we're gonna spoil it, but yeah, um it feels so odd. And I guess he would feel
Mhm,
so odd right then. I mean, when you cut to him at first, it's like black and white and it keeps going back and forth. I kind of feel like it's how I would try to make an episode. I just want to put in
mhm.
cool music to it and stuff, and
Yeah.
have that, but I don't know that it worked as well. Did you think so? Did you like it?
I did not like it at first. I felt the same. It felt very choppy. I didn't quite get what was happening.
Hmm.
Um, and it took me a minute to sort of catch up to this was the drug that was like moving him through different genres.
Yep.
Um, so I didn't really love that until actually it hit the romantic genre.
That was good.
It was
That was good.
hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure why that was so funny, but just his look at Dolores and her just total like, "What the fuck, man?"
Yeah.
was hilarious to me.
They
So that was the moment that I started liking it, and then I
Mhm.
liked the nightclub kind of effect that
Sure.
they were doing, even
Yeah.
if I wasn't really in love with the mood of it. I just kind of liked the effects that it was going through.
Mhm.
Um, so I liked, I guess, the second half of the genre trip
Okay.
when I understood what was going on, when it felt
Yeah.
more comedic, and then when Marshawn Lynch's character comes in and is like, "Watch out for the last genre; it's the
Yeah.
worst." And they said it was reality. That was just like, "Ooh, nice! I see what you did there."
Yeah. They bring in the like Shining theme,
Yeah, yeah.
which was a cool thing. They like playing with music in the show. I like that.
They do. It's fun that they take, well-known, I think,
Yep.
songs and just, like, reimagine them
Yep.
classically.
Hmm. Yep.
So they had a
Paint it
little.
black or whatever, old Westy version of it. That
Yeah, and
kind of thing.
then this episode, I think, was Major Tom and the
Yeah.
Beatles. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah, they do some fun stuff with music. I know that's one of Chris's favorite parts, he always says.
Hmm. And then
So,
the end song. It's like, oh, I haven't heard that in quite a while.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so Yeah, no, that's good. I too really liked the romantic part. It was a good I mean, they did well of like his look was really good.
Yes.
And then the shot they picked of her for this with the music was right.
Mhm.
It's just like, yeah, how would you not be seduced by that? Like they had
Right.
the little like catch light in her eyes and the flames of the fire in the back,
Yep.
just going to town with a pretty intense gun there.
Yeah.
It's good, good shot. Good
Yeah.
shot.
That was really fun. I mean, they do need to find ways to, inject little bits of humor
Mhm.
because Westworld is such a heavy show.
Yep.
So, I thought that was well
They
done.
also need to find ways to have people not stand in the middle of the street just like facing gunfire and not get hit. They also need to
Yeah.
find a way to do that. I'm tired of like get some, you know, find the guys that do John Wick, get some military advisors and stuff and be like, no, you don't just stand in the street and do this.
Yeah.
Like maybe Dolores can do that because she'll be able to take the fire, but no one else can. So
Yeah, who was missing Caleb? I mean, he was just standing there,
yeah. And
Or even when they were doing the whole car chase, Caleb was on hanging off the roof,
Yep.
trying to fiddle with the gun. He's totally drugged out. He's
Yep.
not firing for half the car chase.
Yep.
Who couldn't hit him?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And they've got guns that are, um, you know, self-aiming, you know? Yeah, how it
Sorry,
says
Alan Chuck-
stormtroopers. I
Stormtroopers.
know, that's what
Good
goes
one.
through my head too, and it's just like,
Absolutely.
but these guys have guns now that seemingly are self-aiming. They have
Right.
assist. I mean, I don't know if these particular people did, but the people in the Yakuza place certainly did. So they don't have an excuse.
Right. Right. And it's not like Dolores can control that apparently the way Maeve can.
Right.
So, she can't just like point the guns away. So, yeah, get those self-aiming guns.
So I guess that was the stuff I didn't like. Pacing, kind of structure,
Mhm.
but I liked the the meat of the episode. I
Okay.
liked what we learned. I liked the given moral quandary, and the different characters on different sides of it.
Mhm.
How about you?
I did. I thought it was interesting, the way they set up a choice that Dolores has, to sort of release everybody's information to them, and is that a good thing? Do people wanna know?
Hmm.
And it's Chris and I were talking about this, and he was like, "Well, what would that really do for people? How would you really just get this data file and just be like, what is this? And, how does it know me?" But I think they were very clear about explaining, and you see this only for the briefest of seconds, which I wish they would have shown more of the data files on people's phones that they were getting, just so you
Sure.
could get a better sense of what they all were.
Hmm.
But I know that they briefly mentioned that they have past, present, and future files on everyone. So I suppose that, if you get this, you could sort of scroll through the past and present and see everything like matching up, and
Correct.
then,
Yeah.
shift to the future file and see, what lies in store for you.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch, to think that people would just accept it. We see these reactions of people once they get the files. They're very obviously emotionally shaken in some cases, or
Hmm.
there's like kind of this rage that spills over in other cases. Like you see like the fights or the
Yep.
people, going to like knock down a store randomly, um, which I thought was kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, it's an interesting question that they pose. Should
Um,
should you know all this information about yourself and what other people have in store for you?
well, and so the episode dealt with that. Like, do you want to know
Mhm.
basically all about yourself, have that put right in front of you, and then how you're expected to perish and such, what your
Yeah.
future has. But the thing is, what they've set up is it goes deeper. The other question is, well, why do they have all this on me in the first place?
Mhm.
And this offers the other question of, should a system that would know everyone's futures, should that be have been made in the first place? So
Sure.
I think you can have different you can be like, well, look, this information in everybody's hands, not everybody's going to want to know.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you do 23andMe and you do the health reports, not
Yeah.
everybody wants to know that they have an increased chance of whatever disease.
Right.
um that's that's a choice there. Now they did take this choice away from people,
Mhm.
but it's the idea of it is to shut down the system that created that in the first place. So to me, that's, I don't know. What's the bigger question? Do you see them as separate like I do? Or, like,
Yeah, it's tough because I mean they obviously, I think in my mind, are intertwined. Um well, yeah, they're intertwined, but only because it's like cause and effect.
mhm,
Um but I think one distinction here is it's not just like building a machine that knows your future. It's a machine that also helps people make your future.
correct. Yep, that's the
you
part I
know?
forgot about. Right.
Because
Yes.
I'm thinking very specifically of the woman on the train who learns that she has early onset Alzheimer's,
Mhm.
and then right below that, her phone says, "Not allowed to reproduce."
Right.
So, like,
Yep.
these things are being chosen for her. Like, I have no idea
Exactly.
how they choose to do that, or if, like, her doctor somehow says, like, "Oh, you're infertile," and she just believes it, or they give her a pill or something. The logistics are tough to kind of work out. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit less of a quandary, I guess, if the machine helps people make your future rather than just like, "Oh, I know your future."
Right.
You know?
Mhm.
Because it
Yeah, for
seems in this instance that they're setting it up as like, yeah, this is kind of being used for, less than benign purposes.
mhm. Well, because I mean, even Caleb, they use as the example then, he's trying to get a job. But,
Right.
when the employer looks at the database and it says, no, whatever, problems, he's going to kill himself, all this stuff.
Mhm.
So the system is pushing people, like you say, to an endpoint, is choosing a
Right.
life for them. So you're removing all autonomy there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Liam sort of is the token character here who would be in this sort of like decision making role, where he uses the information from Rehoboam to guide people's lives as he, states like, you guys are the outliers and you are the dregs of humanity and you're what we're trying to get rid of. And,
Hmm.
um, so he sort of represents the like decision making, and looking at him, I definitely would not want him making my decisions for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, what's more conceited, thinking that you have the wherewithal to make decisions for humanity,
Mhm.
or the wherewithal to make a god for humanity, that
Yeah.
you have the ability to create something that will know it all and know best.
Yeah, I think the latter is, a little bit more, conceited, because people, I think, more commonly every day do think they have the authority to make decisions for other people. I mean, that's sort of what we elect leaders of countries and politicians to sort of do. You
Hmm.
know, they may have varying levels of confidence in themselves or confidence in their decisions, but at the
Right.
end of the day, they're the ones that are making the decisions, even though they're supposed to be taking input from their constituents. You know, can get
Hmm.
into a whole argument about, how many do that or take that into real
Yeah.
consideration. But that's the idea.
Yeah.
I think it's more conceited to think that you could build one universal system that can, help that Sirach even says is supposed to save humanity from itself and, steer them back on the right course and get rid of any outliers who, don't mesh up with this plan that you have.
Yep. I think it can even be argued, and I like that. That's always been a question for me, anyways. Is like,
Mhm.
so, like you say, a politician should take counsel or advice from their constituency.
Mhm.
Um, should they? I mean, like, so you run on something, right? You run on a platform or whatever, or a belief system, whatever it may
Mhm.
be, and then you win. That's a that's supposed to be a, my constituency likes my ideas,
Mhm.
and this is the way that, so then I will then govern. So
Right.
then isn't a betrayal of your winning to then change based upon your constituency, or is that honoring your title? So
Sure.
to me, it's a debate. I don't know. I mean, it's saying, it's always like, it is definitely probably a balance or something, but
Yeah, I think there's a middle ground there for sure. Usually, I would imagine the way that this goes is, you do run on a platform, but usually because you run on a platform that people care about in your surrounding area. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like usually you run on something that you're like, oh, take for example like city council. Like everybody cares that we don't have good schools in our district, so I'm going to run on a platform of building up education. So,
Yep.
I've heard this around me, or, it's like a common thing that's reported on,
Yep.
everybody cares about it. So now I'm, running on this thing.
Yep.
Usually you don't just sort of like pick issues out of thin air, I think.
So if yeah, I mean, but so if your constituency, if you listen to them and then you run on that and then
Mhm.
you're elected and then you stick to it, then I think that's a proper path. But the thing is, once you've been elected, if you now hear new information, from from who you work with and work for, then do you change or do you stick with what you're elected on?
Yeah, that's, I think, the true balancing act, because
Mhm.
I think you do have to leave room for people to change their minds based on new information.
Sure.
I think there are some things that, you can hold steady. Like, everybody does, want kids to succeed. So I think improving education is never going to be like a bad platform, or, you really don't have to like run against it, or change your position really. But, I think there's some things that people shift in their caring about for
Yep.
certain. So, do you then just like prioritize something, or do you say like, no, I ran on improving education. Too bad if everybody now in my district cares about job security, or,
Mhm. Yep.
something else. Like, I'm just going to stick to education. Like, no,
How dare
yeah.
you, Andrea? I don't care about kids succeeding. Well, anyways,
You black soul.
yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, I like the questions asked in here.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily unique, but it's particularly relevant to a modern day.
Hmm.
Sometimes a show is a little extra far out in their the situation we'll have to
Right.
encounter someday, and Westworld normally is that. Westworld is normally the in a pretty distant future when we have these essentially completely human like machines. Then what do we do?
Right.
This is more uh present, you know like is your the data about you yours? Do you have an
Right.
ownership to that? Do you have a right to privacy? You know do you think that data it's good to have this data used
Hmm.
for the betterment of society? Do you see
Right.
that as a useful endeavor? And this Sirach here seems to feel like you say that humanity is always dreadful, always terrible, and there needs to be a culling. We
Yes.
need to focus things down, like you say, stop certain people from reproducing. We have our
Hmm.
outliers that we get rid of, and
Right.
we're going to, it's like the ultimate eugenics through computer model,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, and like you said, I think it's particularly relevant right now because we are opening up a lot of digital avenues for health data to be shared amidst this pandemic.
Sure.
And I think there are some positives, like the ability to connect, and offer telehealth services for people who live in rural areas, who
Hmm.
can't get to see a doctor. But there's also a lot of like data sharing, and patient sharing that they're talking about, collecting people's data, like health data records, not
Yeah.
even talking about like treatment, and storing them in this like, and amassing them in this large, server. And
Yep.
it's like, are we really okay with that sort of thing? I
Yep.
mean, people say it'll be used for the good, but do you really trust that? I mean, people are raising red flags about this sort of like willy-nilly, you know, no oversight collection of data.
Hmm.
And this is something that I think Westworld brings up that's very relevant. Like, who
Yep.
really is collecting that data, and do they have a different use for it than you think they do?
Yep. I have discussions slash arguments with some of my friends a lot
Mhm.
on data and how that some of our friends, they work in the data business, so they're
Sure.
very passionate about it. And I think to me the big thing is we um, we don't have to not use any data. We don't have to use data and give up our privacy to do it.
Mhm.
It's just it's the lazy option, It's the easy option, and it's the option that's most profitable for most people
Mhm.
to do the option because information about us is incredibly valuable.
Mhm.
And on its face, what most of that data is supposed to be used for, there's nothing wrong with it. It's to try to sell
Right.
us things they think we'll like. That's
Mhm.
what it ultimately is. And it's
Mhm.
like, what is the big deal with that? Um, but it's all about a technology being built that will be used against the population in a not now. It's a not now situation, but if
Right.
you give them that technology and you don't question it and you let them take all your data, what can they do with that?
Right.
Because at some point people are lazy enough or blind enough, it will be used against you.
Mhm. Yeah, I think Westworld does a great job of taking that sort of question,
Yeah.
and that sort of issue to a logical place.
Yep.
It doesn't seem to me to be that far-fetched.
Right.
I don't know the mechanics of it. I have no idea if, the actual system, the Rehoboam system is something that could be built or if it will look wildly different, but I think the basic premise makes a lot of sense.
Mhm. Well, I can guarantee you it won't be in a really cool kind of half lit sphere in the middle of the room. It's just gonna
Yeah.
it's just gonna live in server rooms. It's not gonna,
Yeah.
but it's cool to have the imagery for it.
Yeah, it's a cool, sort of egg spheroid thing,
Yeah.
and then the balance, that's based off of the eclipse, that Sirach sort of, like, wears on his watch
Oh,
and looks at. That was pretty sweet. I like
yes.
that a lot.
Yep.
Like, the eclipse means the system's in balance, and then, like, when it
Mhm.
shifts and becomes darker, it's starting to get
Yep.
out of balance. I really like that.
I you know, him and I are completely different people. Like, we're on the
Mm,
complete opposite end of the spectrum, when it
okay.
comes to, like, I guess, morality or how things should be. But I think that this actor is brilliant, and I
Oh,
love
yeah.
the character.
Mhm.
I think that he's a really cool character. I think he's a really convincing, um, realistic antagonist. If
Yeah.
someone wants to call him not a villain, however you want to look at it, but
Right.
antagonist. Um, and I like what he's doing with the role.
Yeah, certainly better than Liam Dempsey, who is just a
He plays
sad,
his part
spoiled little
too.
rich boy. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. He plays his part.
He does. I mean, yeah. I mean, he's basically in this episode just begging to be killed by
Yeah.
everybody who has him, so he does that well.
Yeah. I was surprised he was as, I don't know, brash as he
Yeah.
was at the end. I would have been a little less certain that I'm gonna
Yeah.
walk out of here, and be
Yeah.
a little kinder.
Yeah. I do have to say the the part of the whole, like, data file thing that I found least effective, was when he puts on the glasses and tries to threaten Marshawn Lynch and Lena
Mm,
Waite.
yeah.
Their futures that he was telling them, like, were so vague and
Yeah.
just whatever. Like, when he was like, "Oh, your friend will be lucky if he ends up dead in a ditch, and your brother makes you look like a saint." I was just like, "That's nothing. That's nothing specific." If I heard that, that wouldn't even phase me. I'd be like, "That's whatever. You could just
He's a
be saying
fortune
that."
teller.
Like, yeah, he
Yeah.
could just be saying that. That just there were
Mhm.
no specifics. There was no, I don't know. That was just really lame to me.
I think, looking back, through over the season, I think one of my biggest issues is gonna be the AR glasses.
Okay.
Just consistently is an issue.
Mhm.
Like, in the very beginning episode, he's, like, basically kills himself because he's seeing a different image. Take
Right.
off the glasses.
Yeah.
When the guy is being tortured, you know what? Close your eyes. Don't look.
Right.
Like, I'm just like, it's like they're prisoner to the AR
Yeah.
glasses on their face, and it's not effective. And then it seems like a plot hole. I mean, and then when you talking like he's seeing stuff and we're not able to see that,
Right.
and then we're just getting this little loose contact. That's not effective for us either. We're not seeing anything or really being told anything. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like it's about half and half for me. Like you said, you know, why don't you just close your eyes when
Mhm.
the first guy is getting tortured with images from the glasses? Plus, we can't see them, so less effective. For me, obviously, this episode, him threatening those two characters, Liam Dempsey threatening those two characters was
Mhm.
ineffective because whatever that data
Yeah.
file was nothing. I feel like the few times it has worked for me, um, is the premise that these glasses allow you to like see other people. You know, in the very first episode when that same guy,
Yeah.
before all the torture and stuff, is,
Right.
like, communicating, and then
Yes.
when Charlotte Hale puts on the glasses, and sees Sirach for the first time, like, yeah, that works for me. This
Yep.
seems like a realistic use. So I would love to see more of that type of thing.
Yep.
And then the other moment that it worked for me was when, Liam looks at Caleb in this episode and
And it's like
reads his file.
scared.
Yeah, and freaks out, and he's like, "You don't
Yep.
even know who you are." That
Mhm.
to me was more intriguing
Yes.
because, of
Mhm.
course, it's supposed to be set up that way that we don't
Yep.
know what he sees, and this is gonna be a mystery to be solved. But yeah, half and half.
Yep.
But you've gotta use them more effectively.
So last episode we had a Dolores versus Bernard pretty much
Mhm.
situation, and Dolores came on top. This episode was Dolores versus Sirach, and Dolores really took some, made landed some good blows.
Yep.
My prediction is the next episode is going to be a victory for Sirach. I think that not only, and tell me if you think otherwise, but I think that Sirach is not looking like I think some people will understand where he's coming from, but not embrace what he's doing.
Yeah.
Um, and then he lost a lot. He's clearly frustrated. He kills his intelligence guy was not him. He thinks he betrayed him. It blew up the thing. Like loss after loss.
Yes.
Um, I think in the next episode, he is going to really hit back.
Mhm.
And I think that we're going to have to see if they want to keep this extra compelling, yet we're going to have to see an example that really sets in stone why why what he's doing is the best way forward for humanity.
Sure.
Like, why is negating your self autonomy, freedom of choice, and like liberty
Mhm.
basically for the sake of humanity, for peace, why is that what we need to do? And I think they
Mhm.
need to make to me they need to make a better case for that if they
Yeah.
want like us to have more sympathy for him and stuff.
I agree. I think they started in this episode. I mean, they really gave teeny tiny seeds the episode before. And then this episode obviously explores a lot more of his background. So
Hmm.
there was a lot of his motive, which I think is sympathetic, but I don't know that, if I were in the same situation, that certainly wouldn't be my thought is, I need to build this system that controls humanity.
Right.
But I see where his motives first began, and I understand the situation. Um, I do agree. I think next episode's definitely gonna have to be a victory for Sirach, as I think this episode was in a very small way for Bernard. Like last
Mm.
episode, you were talking about how, Dolores keeps winning all the time
Hmm.
and she
Yep.
keeps beating everybody. And, she's like facing down Bernard and she's one step ahead of him and she fights off, Ashley and, everybody keeps winning. And then Bernard and Ashley, I really thought like surprised the heck out of Connells this episode and were able to take him, even though, you know, Sirach was coming in to clean house and Connells
Hmm.
eventually was like, "Well, you're gonna have to go."
Yep.
But for that moment, they definitely caught that version of Dolores off guard. I don't know what to call her,
Kelly was
Connelloris.
still Kelly needs to get his shit together. You're head of freaking security at Westworld, and you
Yeah,
can't throw a
can't
punch. It
read us.
seems like he
Well, and
loses
can't read a
everything.
situation. Like he like busts up in there, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh crap! Like
Hmm.
these people are coming." Yeah, he's not great at
Disappointing.
reading a room.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, I thought that was interesting because, I mean, for all intents and purposes, that is still a version of Dolores.
Yep.
So they did get her, even if only briefly.
So she seemed very they seemed very we're dealing with pronouns here. I don't know what to call each of them.
Yeah.
It's um he seemed very willing to go.
Mhm.
You mean that was the plan? Like, yeah, the detonator planted and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? I mean, it seemed to me he said to Bernard, "You're the only one we can't bring back."
Right.
So to me, it's like, well, I don't know. We got copies, I guess. You know. Um,
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And I'm hoping it sets up the final reason for why in the world, Bernard is even here and
yeah.
Dolores is putting in such effort to keep him alive.
Hmm.
I feel like that needs to pay off pretty soon,
Oh, yeah.
if not fully in some major piece that we get as the audience, because I still am not getting it. Um, but yeah, I mean, we've obviously seen the storage locker full of Bernards,
Yep.
so we can't copy him. I'm not sure why that is, but yeah, I'm hoping that's explained pretty soon. But I thought I mean, that was interesting in and of itself, but I also thought what was interesting, like you said, Connells was ready to go.
Hmm.
He had it all set up and was just like, this is part of the
The
plan and
plan.
I've got to
Yep.
die now. And I think that's going to be interesting to see if the other Doloresi are also that willing to
Yeah.
sacrifice themselves if needed. Because
Right.
it feels like the Dolores who's Charlotte is really the one who could go kind of
Connected.
rogue here, you
Yeah.
know?
She's connected
Mhm.
to her family, to her now
Yep.
surrogate family or whatever, and, I'm wondering if they're see, I'm not convinced because I don't believe it. I'm not convinced that in the next episode, Sirach is gonna be able to make a convincing enough case that I can entertain the idea of what he's doing is right.
Oh,
But
yeah, okay.
what they could do is they could have where Dolores ends up being very wrong. So, like you say, she has
Mhm.
Bernard for some purpose.
Right.
What what are we not knowing yet? What are
Yep.
we not being told? It still feels like there is this too kumbaya for her, like
Yeah.
too altruistic for
I
her.
agree. I
So
agree.
what is it? And that might set us up where we have no we still have a protagonist and an antagonist, but we don't have a hero and a villain.
Right.
Um, unless that becomes Bernard, he becomes the hero, or
Or
we'll see what.
Caleb,
Yep,
potentially.
yeah, or we'll see what happens with Maeve.
Right. Right.
There was a really interesting clip in the preview for the next one where it seemed like Dolores and Maeve were talking,
Yeah.
and Maeve was saying like, I don't think one person should have that much power, and Dolores says, "Well, that's rich coming from someone that can
Yeah.
control like host bodies or commanders and stuff or whatever." So
Yeah, I really liked that, exchange because it's true on both
yeah,
counts, like, they've both taken power for themselves, and, I mean, Maeve in that moment does seem pretty hypocritical that she's like, "You shouldn't have all this power," and she's like,
yeah,
check yourself."
yeah,
So, that was interesting too, that conversation was clearly past. It's a flashback because Maeve's
hmm,
in War World, she's, like, just about to, like, wake up in War World.
hmm,
So
yeah.
that's an interesting memory that I'm sure we'll get to access. So,
The moral ambiguity of like knowing for yourself what is right and then taking the ability to act upon that, you know and knowing that that's right, but then being able to like stop yourself and be like, well, the very act of me being able to assert this much power is not right,
mhm,
is like such a tough dichotomy. It's like
right.
when you ever watch 24 with
No,
Jack
I
Bauer.
haven't. Mm-mm.
Okay. So whatever that was, early aughts or 90s, early aughts, I
Right.
suppose. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was so big, and everybody, like he'd be taking on terrorists, and everybody's rooting for Jack Bauer. And basically, you would let this guy as an audience member go to any lengths
Mhm.
because he knows that this person is going to blow up thousands of people. It's going to blow up a
Sure.
city. And so you're watching him torture someone and you're
Mhm.
like, go Jack Bauer, whatever.
Mhm.
But it's like, but just so that's your conundrum. He
Right.
knows that someone is going to kill millions of people if he does not stop him by
Mhm.
any means necessary.
Right.
But that cannot possibly be illegal because you're removing the rights of said individual you're dealing
Mhm.
with in order to do this. So there is your moral like dichotomy. Do you do what is right and absolute right because you understand it to be right? Or
Mhm.
do you, but you have to violate the rights of others to do it?
Mhm.
Or is the very act of letting that something like that happen, in Sirach's case, the world falling into ruin,
Mhm.
so you by not violating someone's rights?
Right. Yeah, it's a very Machiavellian question. Does the
Mhm.
end justify the means?
Yep.
And I think it can be applied to anybody in
Mhm.
this show right now,
Yep.
truly. And certainly obviously to Sirach and Dolores.
Yep.
They've both got very clear end goals. Um, if you boil them down right now, what we know of
Yep.
them right now, I'm not speculating on what, else Dolores has planned right now.
Yep.
Um, they would certainly seem to be opposing.
Yep.
You know,
Right.
Sirach is taking away, these individual choices because he says it's for the good of humanity. And
Yep.
Dolores is also saying, like, I have the good of humanity, well, right now anyway, in mind when I want to free them to make their
Mhm.
choices. So, but they're both taking individual rights away. Like you said, like Dolores is,
Yep.
bloodjacking people so that she can gain access to bank accounts. She's got this like little um digital assistant that like buys her properties and
Yep.
gets her cars and does all this different stuff for her. um you know just because right now we sympathize with Dolores's end goal, do we sympathize with every action she's taken
Right.
to
She
get
murdered a
there?
lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those things where, it's easy to stand on a uh, moral high ground when things are easy.
Mhm.
And then when things are tough, it gets a lot, so if you're like generally my idea is that, liberty is the liberty is the end goal. So
Mhm.
as long as you have that, then you're set. But if that means that you get liberty, therefore millions will die, if you can make like a direct cause or something like that, then
Mhm.
it gets tough to
Right.
justify yourself.
Right.
So in Sirach's mind, if he has this computer, this artificial intelligence that they've worked years on,
Mhm.
that they've basically been able to prove accurate for at least the short term, is always showing humanity dying off or something
Mhm.
like that. And you're like, well, you know, it's we need to the end goal needs to be to so humanity doesn't die off, then we
Mhm.
need to do whatever it is to prevent that from happening, and therefore I am just.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's tough because I feel like this could potentially be I see it a little bit in parallel to when they're first creating Westworld, and it's the degeneration of the hosts that they build, when they
Mm,
make copies of people and they just
mhm.
like keep not being able to figure it out. Like they keep progressing and, they get more accurate and more accurate copies, but then they slowly start to degrade. And it's not until they figure out that humans are actually more simplistic than they thought that they make these like perfect, well, or near perfect copies that can be um basically clones of the original human that they're based on. So it's like, did Sirach just like, the machine just not have enough information? Is it running something incorrectly? Like, yeah, maybe it does keep doing this where at like 200 years from now humanity dies off, but is there a solution to that maybe Sirach's not seeing? Or
Yeah,
does he feel like this is the only way?
yeah. The arrogance is that you would be able to see it and you would know.
Right.
And so, not having the humility to say, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the thing I have developed is wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, have we seen the successful human copies? Because to me, I don't remember that because we've seen the founder, that one guy, um, you know, like you said, degrading over time, getting
Mhm.
worse and
Yeah,
worse.
Delos, yep.
And then we saw the preview uh at the end of the last season of the Man in Black in the
Mhm.
same situation.
Yes.
But have we seen us? Do we know of a successful copy of a human?
I guess I had assumed that Delos' son, Ben, was a successful copy.
Mm.
The guy keeping
He
the
was digital
archives.
though. He didn't inhabit a physical form.
True. So, yeah, so I guess I don't know that if they would have put him in a physical host, he wouldn't also degrade.
Mhm.
But he seemed to imply that that was the case, that
Sure.
he'd finally figured it out.
I'd like answers on that. I'd like to
Yeah,
see what they do
yeah.
with that. Hmm.
Well, the next preview does seem to hint at Dolores going back to Westworld, or some world inside the park.
Oh, I didn't catch that. Okay.
Yeah, it's like a brief, really brief blip where she's riding a horse through the mountains, and it
Oh,
looks like one of the park worlds. And she seems to be in that like black, kind of outfit moto outfit that she's been wearing.
sure.
So,
I like
yeah,
that jacket.
I do too. I need it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Um,
s- Speaking of
We'll be matchy twinsies in Dolores
on our
jackets.
season finale episode, we'll just be
Yeah.
twinsies.
Yeah.
Speaking of that jacket though, because it's used in a major moment towards the end of the episode where Dolores gets shot point
Yeah.
blank right in front of Caleb, and she just
Yep.
like zips up her jacket. She's like,
Yep.
talk about it later.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
obviously he's gonna get an explanation in the next one. So we'll see how he reacts to
yeah,
that.
he's clearly shook. I
Yeah.
mean,
Hmm.
I know
Maybe he's
he
like,
thought Dolores was different, but not that
yeah.
different.
He's like, am I still high?
Right.
Yeah.
What genre is this?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, that'll definitely be an interesting confrontation that I hope, kind of kicks off early the next
Yeah.
episode because
Caleb looked like he's in trouble in the next episode. So I wonder
yeah,
if maybe we won't get that. Maybe it hits the fan and they get separated and something
sure.
for an explanation can be given. And
Sure.
then someone else can give him the explanation, and then he feels betrayed that he didn't get the explanation from Dolores. Oh my God, there's a cliche for you. Let's go that route.
You just wrote the next episode, John.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like the human
Um,
Rehoboam.
oh yeah, for sure. Yep, very insightful. Um, well, any other thoughts on this episode? I feel like
Um, Other than the fact that I am terribly sad that Tommy Flanagan is dead, because I love him.
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
he was good.
And
Yeah, I don't
then,
see a reason that he would come back in any way.
no, no.
So,
Yeah, I'm bummed. I loved his character. And obviously, Dolores is down one copy of herself. So that's definitely probably a blow for her, even though she takes out one of Sirach's lieutenants as well.
yeah,
So
maybe she'll just put herself in another different body. What's the
mm,
next body that's useful?
true. Yeah. I mean, if the Pearl survived that blast, who
Well,
knows?
it's backed up.
Yeah,
It
true.
seemed his to me that's why I took
True.
is that we made sure there's copies of us,
Hmm.
and so I yeah, I don't know. That's There's so many questions with that yet. Is she able
Yeah.
to just make copies of herself and therefore that's what
Right.
they or because she can have a copy, but it to me the way that this Dolores was willing to die implied like, well, I can come back, don't worry.
Hmm.
But
Sure.
it won't be that version of Dolores.
Right. Because
It
it's
will be
had
an side
experiences.
experience. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So you won't remember that. It's not like
Right.
you're gonna wake up and, "Oh, yeah, man, I exploded before, and, that was too bad." You
Right.
know, it's kinda like reincarnation, you know? "Oh, that's a peaceful thought, you're reincarnated," but you're not gonna remember the past existence, so it
Right.
doesn't matter to you. It doesn't make any bearing on your life, so
Right. Yeah. I mean, you only the whatever Dolores version comes back won't be you exactly.
right.
Unless like you said, it's somehow backed up to right before, you know,
Yeah.
it, you know, Connell's blew himself up and then put in another body. Which I think is interesting because that's sort of the same thing that Altered Carbon explores, with their
Yes.
stacks,
I was just gonna
and
say,
talking about being backed up. Yeah.
yep, if this was altered carbon, then it would totally be that
Right.
because they
Yeah.
can copy, like, multiple petabytes, I don't even know, above bytes of information,
Yeah.
a person's experiences, in a blink of an eye, so
Right.
wirelessly,
Right.
so
Yes, Dolores obviously seems I think it's implied that Dolores would have a bit more trouble with that. I don't think technology's advanced that far. I mean, she
yeah,
can make copies of herself, sure, but I think an interesting question is, can she make copies of herself um in the real world because she brings 5 copies from Westworld into the real world. So it's not certain that she has the technology to copy herself in the real world, and maybe that's why she's
yeah,
going back to Westworld.
that could
She
be.
wants to make
That's a
more
good point.
copies,
Because she
you
clearly
know?
had the ability to print bodies, but it seems like
Right.
that's probably ended now because they
Mhm.
found her home facility, you know?
Right.
So, yeah, that's a good point. It could be, "I need more of me."
Yeah.
Won't when, we don't have enough of me out there yet to get this done.
Right. So,
Hmm.
yeah, maybe she's journeying back to Westworld, back to, the archive and the control room, and that's where she makes the copies.
I hope they don't make it, because that was one issue, like, minor issue I had with an
Mm.
earlier episode, was how easy it was for Bernard to just leave Westworld.
Oh, yeah,
And,
okay.
like, go there and stuff. "Oh, I just need a boat," and, "Oh,
Well,
okay."
yeah, I mean, who's overseeing Westworld right now? I mean, I know there's War World, but is Westworld in operation? Are all the parks in operation? Only some? Who's looking out for that?
You think it'd still be security, you know?
Right. Right.
Like, even if
But
it's not in operation running and still have,
right.
like, the perimeter
Mhm.
secured.
Guarded somehow, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or maybe, Bernard was able to get in because, I mean, maybe security like alerted them that he was there, but because Charlotte Hale slash Dolores was in charge, she was like, whatever, it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, this episode definitely has me excited for the next one.
Yes.
I am excited for, like, um, I don't know, more chaos. I
Mhm.
say it. And I wanna see how Sirach strikes back.
Yep.
That's what it's gonna be called. Sirach Strikes Back.
Yeah,
So,
I'm interested to see what his next move is. I'm interested to see, our first interaction between Maeve and Dolores.
yep.
Really, I mean, they had 2 seconds, when she was
Yeah, that's a
in the Yakuza.
crazy, really. Yeah. Mhm.
So, yeah, I'm excited to see that, and I'm excited like you said, I think this episode sets up, like, an end run, for the last 3 episodes, so I'm hoping for, like, a fast pace, like, getting some answers.
Yeah. Oh, man, am getting, like, metaphysical, man, and I'm not even high. Like, I just this show is it's, it's, I just love these things that make me ponder different
Mhm.
stuff. So, I've been I was pretty worried about the season, but I'm good with it so far.
Yes, I am as well. I was a little worried, obviously, after season 2. I felt got a little muddled, but I think this season has been handled pretty beautifully. And I think it's part of the fun of Westworld that they do these like beautiful visual effects, but then also care enough to create a story that makes you think
Mhm.
and really
Yep.
makes you ponder some deeper questions. So
Yep. Well, anything else to add?
Not right now. I think we covered
Okay.
everything.
Yeah. Well, I want to remind everyone to like and share and
Mhm.
comment,
Yes,
all
please.
that fun stuff. This will be on
Mhm.
tomorrow. And this is the like video only thing. So not in podcast form,
Right.
but our regular podcast will be back this Saturday.
Mhm. And
So
we'll have a special guest.
yeah, okay. Yeah, we can mention so this Saturday we'll be covering the news and stuff,
Mhm.
but then we're gonna get another perspective on the Castlevania Netflix show.
Yep.
I hope it's I hope it's interesting because
I bet it will be.
because we're both in pretty big fans. We liked
Mhm.
it. We did our talk, but we'll get another person's perspective on that.
Po
And
Possibly on other things as well.
yeah. Well, in news, I have a little bit of housewives to talk about, I suppose. Sophie has a big take on that.
Well, I have
We'll see.
something related, I think, to Housewives because, Netflix did drop another episode of Tiger King,
Okay.
and it was like a reunion special, so it felt to me like this sort of version of Housewives, so
Yeah.
I think it'll actually dovetail really well.
Oh my God, that's gonna be the next. They're gonna make it into a show, aren't they? This is gonna
I
be.
think they are, truly.
Oh man.
So, it'll be interesting, but yeah, so we'll have some fun things to talk about for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. Our first guest.
That's
And
right.
that's really fun. So if he behaves himself, maybe he can come on.
Yeah. It's like his
Yeah.
interview.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Well,
Alright.
thanks for joining us, everyone. Good to talk to you, Andrea.
You too.
And see you later.
Cheers.